Hi guys, it's Mrs. Clark. Today's lesson is going to be on operations with fractions, focusing right now, this video, on adding and subtracting fractions. We are very shortly going to get to adding and subtracting fractions that are both positive and negatives. So we've got to kind of refresh our memory on what we do when we have to add and subtract fractions and mixed numbers. So we're going to start with 2/3 plus 5/4. I'm going to go over one way of doing this, and we can talk after the video about maybe other ways that you've learned how to do this. So for a long time, a lot of teachers have taught students to find common denominators. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find a common denominator for 3 and 4 because you cannot add fractions unless they have common denominators. So 3 and 4, if I count by 3s and I count by 4s, what's the first number that I get to that those two numbers have in common? And it would be 12. So I'm going to multiply 3 times 4 to get 12. And I have to remember that I need to multiply my numerator by the same number as well. So 2 times 4 gives me 8. And I'm going to multiply 4 times 3 to give me 12. And again, I have to multiply my numerator by the same number, and I get 15. So now I can add just my numerators, okay? So 8 plus 15 gives me 23, 23/12, which if you wanted to write that as the mixed number, it'd be 1 and 11/12. Okay? So that's our first example. Let's go to number 2. In this example, we are subtracting, okay? So in this example, we're going to do the same thing, find common denominators, okay? I'm going to go over a little bit different method of finding that common denominator, okay? Incorporating the crisscross applesauce idea, okay? So to find my common denominator, I'm simply going to multiply these two denominators together. I'm going to get 24. So both my fractions are going to have the denominator of 24. Now, what I can do is now the crisscross applesauce method to get my numerator. So 7 times 3 gives me 21, and 2 times 8 gives me 16. Okay? And now all I have to do is subtract my numerator. So 21 minus 16 gives me 5. And my answer is going to be 5/24. In 7th grade, we always want to make sure that we simplify our final answer, that it's in simplest form. And in both situations, both cases, they are. Okay? We're going to go on to number 3. Number 3, we've got mixed numbers. When you're adding mixed numbers, you can kind of separate out the whole number from the fraction. And that's what I'm going to do here for number 3. Okay? I'm going to separate out the fact that I've got 5 as a whole number and 1 as another whole number, which gives me a total of 6, okay, equals 6. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on adding the fractional parts of the mixed numbers. So I'm going to write 2/3 plus 3/4. And again, I'm going to use the crisscross applesauce method because it's actually quicker. I'm going to multiply my denominators together to get 12. So both fractions will have a denominator of 12. Then I'm going to do 2 times 4. That gives me 8. And I'm going to do 3 times 3, which gives me 9. And now I have 17/12. Now, 17/12 is actually improper. We can't combine 17/12 with the whole number 6. So we've got to change this to the mixed number. So I'm going to divide 17 by 12. 12 goes into 17 once. The difference between 17 and 12 is 5. And then I make the denominator the same, which is 12. So 1 and 5/12 is what I get when I add 8/12 to 9/12. But now I have to remember that I have to add a whole number 6 to that. So when I add this together, 1 and 5/12, and I add that to the whole number 6, I get 7 and 5/12. And that's my final answer for that problem. Okay? We're going to go to subtraction now. Now for this problem, I'm going to do this a little bit differently. Okay, I personally find that it's easier to change these fractions to improper before I do find the common denominators. Yes, I'm making the numbers bigger, but I'm afraid that you're going to forget about your whole numbers here. And sometimes the fractional part can actually be smaller in the first fraction than it is in the second, but when you change it to an improper fraction right off the bat, okay, it can actually make that first fraction larger. So I'm going to do 6 times 7, which is 42, and I'm going to add 5 to that, which is going to give me 47 over 6 minus 4 times 3 is 12, and 1 more is 13, so 13 fourths, okay? Not user-friendly numbers here, a little bit big here, but we can deal. Okay, I'm going to do 4 times 6, and that's going to give me a denominator of 24. Hold on. However, we should be able to look at every fraction that we have that we're either adding or subtracting to other fractions and find the best method that works best for finding the common denominators. I can multiply these together, but I have very large numerators. If I multiply these together, I'm going to get 24. I'm going to be multiplying the numerators by larger numbers. I'm thinking there's another way, okay? If we go back to what I did in number 1, I thought to myself, if I count by 3s and I count by 4s, what's the first number that I get to that they have in common? And the answer was 12, okay? Now, down here, I can kind of do the same thing. If I count by 6s and I count by 4s, what's the first number that I get to that they have in common? And the answer is going to be 12, okay? So I can actually do this differently. I can make my denominator 12 here by multiplying 6 times 2, which means I'm only multiplying 47 times 2, which is a little bit easier, all right? I get 94, okay? And then I'm going to do 4 times what to get 12, and your answer would be 3. Okay, and again, there's nothing wrong with paper and pencil math. You want to do it if you want to check your work. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 1 is 3. So you get 39 twelfths. And again, you are subtracting only numerators. So I'm going to do 94. Hopefully you can still see this. Minus 39. 14 minus 9 is 5. 8 minus 3 is 5. I get 55 over 12. Okay, I should change it back to a mixed number because that was the form that the numbers were originally in. Okay, so I'm going to say, let's see, I'm going to do another bit of paper and pencil math just to help you guys see it. So I'm going to do 55 has to be divided by 12. 12 goes into 55 4 times. You get 48. 15 minus 8 is 7, so 4 and 7 twelfths is your final answer. 4 and 7 twelfths. There's a lot going on there, okay? I totally get it. And we're going to spend a little time refreshing and reviewing and going over how to get our answers to these problems. And much like you've seen here, I've done a couple different methods, and I have talked about what you're comfortable with. And as long as you are doing the work and coming up with accurate answers and you're showing me paper and pencil math on how you came up with those answers, then you know that your method, if it works for you, that's what you're going to go with, okay? So we're going to practice this skill now, and then we're going to add to the fact that we've got positive and negative numbers that we're going to add to this, all right? Good job, guys.